Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me in another live episode of Running to Write, where I give questionable writing advice through writing metaphors. And I'm Ben Pick, so you can tell it's live because, again, I choke up and I mess up the order and do all types of things that are wrong and not planned. So, again, thank you everyone for joining me. I know I did a really bad job. I've been kind of rushing around today, and I did a really bad job of promoting this video. So for the three of you who are currently here, RC Scott, Nicole the Blind Mage, and author Lauren Adele, thank you for joining in. You all are awesome, and I'm really glad that you're here. Now I'm doing, yeah, squirrel, yes. Yeah, work picked up today, and then I had to go walk my dog, and then I had to scramble to get here on time. But tonight, like I said, I'm doing the Half Human Heroes tag. And this is a really cool tag because it's all about the AuthorTube community in a way. Half Human Heroes is a fantasy short story anthology that was compiled by Jeremy Fee. It was compiled by him, and he created this tag to go along with that. But each of the individual stories, this is where it's really cool, is that each of those stories are compiled or were written by other AuthorTube creators. So each of the bullet points, each of the prompts was created by somebody from our community to go along with the chapter or the short story that they included within this larger anthology that was compiled by Jeremy Fee. Now, I'm way behind on all these tags. This came out, I think, back in March. So I'm going live. That's why I'm going live tonight, to prevent this video from getting pushed back. If I did a pre-record version, then I would have to go through and edit it, and it takes a whole process, and I have a huge backlog and queue, whatever. So I just decided to go live, and that's how we're here tonight. So let's get this started with the first prompt, which was based on the foreword by Philip Chase. And give a shout out to someone in the Fantasy BookTube community. Now, there's a lot of different ways that I could have gone through with this, and I used this tag as a chance to find somebody who didn't have, thousands of subscribers. And so I found Books with Kimberly, and I'm going to put the link right here in the chat. She is an interesting tuber, and like I said, I recently found her channel. She was when I first found her, this was a couple of weeks ago when I started coming up with the ideas for this. And she recently did a young adult challenge with the books, which, as the name implies, she was reading through various young adult series. And I do like young adult books as kind of a comfort read to distract myself from some of the other darker books that I read. And she brought up several interesting fantasy series that I had never heard of. So that's one of the main things I look for within a booktuber who I follow, is either I want something that's either new and something I have never heard of, never would have heard about, or I want a completely new spin on a series that I've known for years upon years upon years. And, well, whatever, I can just say it. I recently watched a video because I grew up playing the game Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. It was on Super Nintendo. And somebody did a video of like 36 things you would never know about this game. And I'm like, okay, well, this is clickbait. But I actually clicked the link, and surprisingly, a lot of the information that was compiled in there was new and things that I had never heard of, things I had never thought to do within the game, just fun little quirks about it. And so I was fascinated by this, and I'm excited for the remake that's coming out this winter. So November, Super Mario RPG is coming back, and I'm really excited for that. But this is all about books, so let's get back to the topic at hand. And yeah, author Lauren Adele, you are an author. It's weird to keep calling you author Lauren Adele. So Lauren, yes, you posted that you need to do the tag, so go for it. Yeah, that's really cool. And definitely let me know what you think of the stories in there. So you said you picked up an ebook copy, so go on you for supporting AuthorTubers. And next up is prompt number 2. That is based on the chapter Dishonoured and Death by Mason Adey. Who are your favorite sibling characters in a story? There's a lot of different ones to choose from, and I went with the siblings from Lock and Key. Now, that's a comic series made by Joe Hill, which is the pen name for Stephen King's son. And it's all about a Massachusetts home where the family are the caretakers through inherited. They don't know at first, but they find out that they are the caretakers for a series of magic keys. There's one that you can unlock, which turns you into a ghost. There's one you can unlock where you can travel inside your own brain and kind of mess with your own memories, which leads into all kinds of troubles. There's one which controls shadows. There's one which makes you big. There's one which turns you into a very strong person. Anyways, there's a lot of really fun and creative magic in there. And at the heart of all this, at the heart of all the drama, you have oh, thank you. Like I said, Mason is Mason in the Dark. Oh, they're a blind booktuber. Interesting. We just posted that in the chat, or Lauren just posted that in chat. I'm sorry, there's things going on upstairs. Anyways, this series at the heart of it, it's three siblings. So you have an older brother who's a senior in high school. You have a younger sister who is, I think, a sophomore, and then you have a youngest brother who is a child. And so the way they interact with each other, obviously the child is the one who's most attuned to the magic within the house because they're the youngest, they have the wildest imagination. And a lot of the things that go wrong happen because of that sibling interactions. But at the heart of it, they come together as a family, which is also really, really important. And yes, Lauren, there was a series on Netflix, and that's about all I want to say on that. There were some interesting choices within that show, and there was some, oh boy, that last season. There was one character, the villain, who overacts. They are very Shakespearean in the way they portray that character who wasn't in the actual source material, but they were very hamming it up. It seemed like in every scene compared to the other people. It seemed like there was just two different shows going on. And Just Eva, thank you for joining in. Andy, thank you for coming in, swinging by and saying hi. And self-publishing with Andy. Oh, so I don't know if there's two Andys in here, if you have two accounts, but thank you either way. If there are two Andys, thank you. Or if you're using two accounts to pump up my numbers, thank you again. I'm pretty sure two different Andys. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, the show looked interesting. It had a lot of promise, but anyways, the source material is very graphic. There's a lot of trigger warnings that should be said for it, in addition to the graphic violence that's shown in there, and there's some instances of abuse and sexual misconduct. It's not for everyone, but this is a really, really great series. And yeah, thank you for confirming, Just Eva, that there are in fact two different Andys. I appreciate that. So if you give a chance, it's only 6 volumes, so it's not very long to go through, and it is a great, great read. I know there's RC Scott in here is big on horror, so if you haven't given Lock and Key a chance, I say go for it. I would be happy to send you my copies if you want, but we can talk about that later. Anyways, prompt number 3, Goatman's Bridge by P.M. Brown. What is your favorite story with the supernatural in it? Well, I'm a little bit basic in some of my answers, and I'm going to say the same answer I give for a lot of tags. Dresden Files. There is no other series that brings to life the supernatural elements for me that make me feel like I could just go out and touch the supernatural world. I've been to Chicago when I was a kid, and now I feel like if I ever went back there, first of all, I know a lot about the city. I know about I think it's the Natural History Museum, where there's a fun dinosaur statue, which comes as a major plot point for one of the earlier books. And that plot point, I don't want to go into spoilers because it is fantastic, but that is the moment that absolutely sold the Dresden Files to me. But what I really like about the supernatural feel to it is that it feels real. I feel like I can go out there, and sure, I don't legitimately think I could run into Dresden, but I feel like I could take a boat out to the island that they go to and experience it for myself. I feel like I could go to the pub that they hang out at. I feel like I could go and experience all the different locations, the cemetery that they go to, and I feel like Jim Butcher brings the supernatural world to life in such a fantastic way throughout the Dresden Files. So that is hands down my favorite supernatural story because, again, I feel like I could easily be a participant in one of the next books by accident. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Lauren. Yeah, the Dresden Files. It gets better as the series goes on, but early on there are some certainly problematic moments, and I'm not excusing those in any way, but I am saying that it seems like Jim does kind of skew away from some of those earlier moments. Anyways, prompt number 4. The Band Gets Together by Dane Cobain. What is your favorite story that incorporates music? I kind of went for a cheat with this one, and I said Terry Pratchett, The Last Continent. Music is woven throughout Terry Pratchett's Discworld series, so it's not necessarily about music, but rather the way that he conveys his story is musical. It's lyrical. He is an artist, or he was an artist. Unfortunately, he since passed on, but everything about that story jumps out at me as something that I can hear. There's a note in my Google Calendar that I read every year, and it is just a page from The Last Continent where the chapters are where the continents, where a continent is being formed. And it is so musical. I can hear the waves crashing. I can hear the explosions of volcanic rock, just magma, lava bursting up from the sea. And everything about it, I can hear the story in my head, which makes it such a dynamic masterpiece that, like I said, I have it in my Google Calendar, and every year I read that one page of that I copied in there, and all I have is a note that just says "damn good writing." So there are I watch other people give these wonderful wonderful answers for this, where the character was a lyrist, and then there was another one where the song where the magic is based around song. But for me, Terry Pratchett, the way he writes is just nothing short of musical. Now, next up, number 5, we have Home of the Gnome by Jeremy Fee. What is your favorite playful or interesting title? I went a little bit different with this one. It's an indie book that I've read. I happen to work with a guy. He's really cool. And it's called I, Minion. I, comma, Minion. It's simple, it's straightforward, and it conveys exactly what the book is. I go into that thinking, hey, I'm probably going to get some kind of story about a grunt in some kind of military. It turns out that this is not a Pixar story, so I know it's not going to be about an egg-shaped, googly-eyed creature who just wanders around and does the bidding of Gru. It's not a comedy. It is very, very dark, and that's what this series is. It is a reanimated corpse who goes through their unlife as they are destroying villages, and the way that they are trying to reconcile with what they're doing and being forced to do someone else's bidding. So it's actually a really interesting story, and that is perfectly conveyed within those two simple words, I, Minion. Hi, Shannon. Thanks for joining in. And yes, please hit the like button if you get a chance. Number 6, Abandoned Hope by Jessica Haas. Jessica Haas. What is your favorite moral quandary in a story? I'm going with Tales from the Fermi Resolution, Volume 1, Shadow of the Tower. This is a bit of a stretch, and not something, and it's based on something that we don't really find out until the final twist in the short story. So much like the Half Human Heroes anthology, Tales from the Fermi Resolution is a series of short stories about a future in which the old gods sort of come back. So because the old gods come back, magic sort of corrupts what remains of humans, and then we sort of become elves, goblins, orcs. We become magical beings. But in the first story, there's a human mage who teams up with a mercenary, and they're going on this quest through a college town. I think it's in upstate New York. And what we learn, or what the moral quandary is that the mercenary is putting his life on the line for a single book. Now, the wizard is going through for his own reasons, and I think he also is looking for like a magic book. But we're assuming that the mercenary is going through to find some eldritch tome, and that he's going to have to eventually battle the wizard that he teamed up with. And they're after they work together, they meet up on the road, and after they work together to stop the Cthulhu style horrors that they're facing, they would have to fight over the last remaining book that can try and undo all the damage that's been done. But no, it turns out that in this imagined future, the book that the mercenary was risking his life for, the moral quandary, was over a simple physics book because it took place at a college. So he broke in, he fought through all these monsters, he risked his own life to get what we take for granted right now. It's a physics book. And as, former engineering student, I found that really enjoyable, that after all of that, the local government hired somebody to go out on this mission and go get a book all about how the world actually works. Not magic, not anything like that. It is just pure physics because knowledge is power. I thought that was fun. And number 7. Oh, wow. Amaranthine Amphitheater by Liam Cutie Hall. Who is your favorite immortal character? I'm going back to my tried and true. So yeah, sorry, Nicole, it's going to bug you that there's another indie series with the same concept. It's in your Kindle library. So yeah, please let me know. That sounds cool. Anyways, my favorite immortal character is Thomas from Raymond Feist's Midkemia series. He started off as one of 2 humans who go off to have this incredible transformation. So at the very, very start, all the way behind this image, behind this picture, you have the first book, which is Magician Apprentice, followed by Magician Master. And then you have going all the way back to probably about here. But most of the books I actually keep on the lowest shelf. These are just the ones that I really, really like out of the Midkemia series. They're about 30 books. And it also, the entire series, the entire 100-year, multi-dimensional, multi-planet spanning epic all starts with 2 simple humans. And one of them stumbles across great magic, but Thomas, he stumbles on a magical armor that then possesses him, and he becomes an avatar for one of the gods within the series. This evolves him from a human to become elf-like. The dragon lords, that's what they're called, those gods. So the dragon lords, I think they created the elves to be their servants, and there's different kinds of elves depending on what types of servants they need. You had like the regular ones, then you had the ones that were closer to certain gods. There were the ones who are among the stars. There's a whole bunch of different races of elves that are based around how they were serving these dragon lords. Anyways, this evolves him into kind of an amalgam of a human, an elf, and the dragon lord. And because of that, he is one of the characters who lasts all the way through the series. So hundreds of years. I don't remember if he dies, but either way, he's extremely long-lived because he is now part god. And a part of that is that he has to fight to retain some of his humanity because this god is uncaring. They looked at the elves, at the people around the planet as basically ants or worse. And so he is constantly fighting to retain his humanity while stuck in this body that is growing ever stronger and ever older. And he's one of the most steadfast and innately good characters across that series because he does fail a lot, but he still tries to be the moral backbone of all these other epic dilemmas that keep coming up. And in addition to that, he also has a son who goes on to save the world numerous times as a half human, elf, and divine hybrid. So not only is Thomas awesome, but his kid, Callus, is really cool. And Callus will come up here, kind of. Number 8, Lies of the Sunstone and the Hybrid Prince by SD Houston, our own SD Houston, who's in the chat right now. So thank you. Sorry, you're leaving this to watch for now, but getting ready for bed. I hope you do catch up on sleep. I know we were recording yesterday, and so I know you're still kind of catching up after your AuthorTube writing conference, after hosting the AuthorTube writing conference. So hopefully you catch up on this particular point because this is your bullet. So this is your prompt, not bullet point. This is your prompt. Who is your favorite thief character or story with a heist in it? Sorry to say I couldn't come up with anything original here, so I'm going back to the tried and true Midkemia series and doubling down with that previous answer. I'm predictable, I'm boring, I'm basic, whatever. I love the Midkemia series. It is, I know it's dated now, especially the earlier books, but it is the series that made me love fantasy, and there is something in there for everyone. So the first book is all the first two books, because it's kind of broken up into two books: Magician Apprentice, Magician Master. They're all about the magic of the world, and it's kind of a power fantasy where you have the young boy growing up to become one of the most powerful wizards and fighting a war and whatever. The third book in the series, so after that, you have Silverthorn, which is the prince has successfully fought off an invasion, and now he's getting married to the woman who they've been growing closer to throughout the first two books, or primarily the second one. And on their wedding day, she gets struck by a poisoned arrow. Now they're able to sort of freeze her and keep her body frozen and the poison from killing her. And that sends Prince Arutha, along with Jimmy the Hand, the thief, on a quest to get this flower from behind enemy territory, which will then be ground up and used to cure the princess, and then they can live happily ever after. But yeah, my favorite thief story is Silverthorn. It's one of the early books in the series, as I mentioned, and the characters aren't these legendary characters that they become. They aren't blowing up planets with magic. They aren't dimension altering, time hopping beings who are just so powerful that they are literally, to get out of a trap, to get out of a time-based trap, they go to the end of the universe. Like they go back to the start of everything. Slight spoiler, I guess, on that one, but they beat the time loop by going back to the beginning of time. And in Silverthorn, we have these human characters. So you have the thief who has to lead the tiny group into enemy territory and ultimately disarm some enchantments that they don't understand, because they're dealing with magic, but they don't have the magician with them. So they kind of have to fare on their own, and they rely heavily on this young thief. And he goes on to grow up and become a very, very influential character. But now it's more of just kind of winging it. He doesn't know what he's doing, and he's trying to save lives and keep the prince safe. So it's kind of a race to neutralize the poison while also being wildly out of their depth. And everything about this book was wonderful. Let me see. It actually, invites comparisons with Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. And I know that's not, I really enjoy both series. I know some people aren't big fans of either this one or Lord of the Rings, but that's a preference thing. And yeah, I really enjoy both these. And this is incredibly high praise to compare it to Lord of the Rings. I find that it's apt. And one other thing about the book is that it also sets the stage for the fourth book in the series, in that particular saga, which brings everything to a close in the Rift War saga. So it's doing a lot. It is a thief story, which also builds up some of the details about the magicians, and there are a lot of moving pieces in there, but it captured my imagination in a way that very few heist stories do. And prompt number 9, Red Eyes by Kupil Yosef Kark. What is your favorite story with an adventuring party or found family in it? So I'm tempted to go again with Midkemia, with Callus's Crimson Eagle, which is from the Serpent War saga, which is where I actually started picking up all of Midkemia. I picked it up in the middle and then went back and started over from the start with Rift War and read all the way to the end, because that is a quintessential found family. You have a band of essentially prisoners that get drafted into the army. They're given a new chance at life, and they have to go off on a secret mission to spy in enemy territory. And as I mentioned, Callus comes back. He leads the group. It's a wonderful story, but I'm not going fanboy over there. So instead, my more modern answer is, in fact, Wings of Ebony. Yeah, we can see that good. So shows up on screen. Perfect, perfect, perfect. This is one of the most strongly family-driven narratives I've read in years. The main character, Rue, has her family torn apart. She's kidnapped, and there's a lot of violent things that she experiences, but she herself is kidnapped because she's half of this magical race. And so she has to discover more about her heritage and using her powers, and she fights back to reunite with her sister because she knows that her sister is in danger without her to be there to protect her. And then more than that, the entire community comes together by the end as just a real cheerworthy moment of found family. And then, although this book has nothing to do with the Fast and Furious movies that came out recently, and so this, when I was thinking about what I would say about this, the entire time I'm thinking it's not Tokyo Drift, but Wings of Ebony is how I imagine the Fast and Furious characters would treat family that isn't family. And because of the one thing I know within the Fast and Furious movies, which I stopped at Tokyo Drift, which is why I referenced that here. I never saw 5 or on, so I don't know anything about X. All I know are the memes where they end up in space. But the one thing I do know about the Fast and Furious movies is that it's all about family, and family comes first. So, anyways, Wings of Ebony is all about family. And let's see, number 10, moving on to number 10, More or Less Human by Margaret Pinard. That's the short story that she wrote. What is your favorite story with a surprise twist or reveal in it? I wanted to tread the waters very carefully here because I didn't want to give anything away. So I landed on Mistborn. This would have fit well with a thief or a heist, but this is where I'm putting my answer for Mistborn. Now, the big twist is there's a point in the book where the characters feel like they have a grapple of their magical powers. They feel like they've come into their own and that they are incredibly strong and that they might actually succeed. And then they meet their whole goal is to take down the emperor, but they meet one of his captains. And in a scene like The Matrix, where they decide to, for once, not run and actually stand and fight, we see there's the main character and then there's her teacher. He goes crazy. He is phenomenal in that fight. And he is displaying such a creative use of the magic, which Brandon Sanderson, it goes without saying, he is fantastic with magic systems and thinking outside the box for new ways to implement them and use them. And for once, this captain, the enemy lieutenant, whatever, they have all up until this point, they seemed unstoppable. The characters always had to run, or they were always afraid of running into one of these characters. And the teacher for the main character is holding his own, and then he finally starts beating down on this enemy and defeats them. So we had this hurrah moment where they did something that nobody thought they could, and for once in this book, it seems like everything might work out exactly as planned. Shockingly, there's a lot left in the book, so of course everything goes wrong immediately. And the twist, the real, is that the Emperor shows up and he just thrashes everyone involved. Like, it wasn't even close. He just utterly destroys them. And everything that we had seen the characters do to demonstrate how well they were using the magic system, it amounts to nothing. So it pulled the rug out from under me and hooked me into the series because, well, things only pick up from there. And I was surprised and intrigued at how well he crafted the entire story and the pacing and everything to just give us that nice twist of how little the characters actually know, despite everything that we thought we knew about them, which I thought was really cool. And let's see. Lastly, the very last prompt, number 11, The Defense of Burgond by David Wiley. What is your favorite battle in a story? Wheel of Time. Now, I have commented on, I've gone back and forth on this channel about the Wheel of Time. I like a lot of the things that it does. I do think the series is too long. I do think there are entire books that you can skip over, and I fully understand. When I describe the series, I describe its strengths, but I describe its strengths, but I also mention how if you don't enjoy books 5 through 8 is usually where people drop off from the series, even though if you can get past that point, the series picks up through 4 books, 9 through 13, and it becomes this wonderful, wonderful story with a lot of payoff moments. And for all of my complaints about the exceptionally sprawling nature of the storytelling within The Wheel of Time and the plot and pace, especially in those middle books, 5 through 8, it has outstanding moments. And the final battle is everything I would want after 13. I think it's actually 14 books. I'm sorry, I misspoke earlier. After 13 books. So in the 14th book, you have these incredible moments where the final battles are nothing short of spectacular. And not only that, not only is there one final battle to worry about, but there are multiple final battles all happening kind of simultaneously. There's some time dilation to make everything line up better and be more, and to resonate at the same sort of time. But the way Robert Jordan and later Brandon Sanderson write, it captured me in. So there was a battle scene in those books I described, the 5 through 8, where it was really enjoyable. It was like the one shiny moment in a sea of people just walking. And the final battle, though, is so fantastic. Again, powers being used in ways that we never would have thought. You have, I guess I can say some of it. You have the portals that we've used throughout the story to travel through into another realm, and then you sort of use them to sort of fast travel across the land without, well, it's their way of fast traveling to get to each of the different points that they need to get to. They go in sort of this sub ghost like dreamlike world, and then they can cross on the waypoints and get spit out at different locations. But what they use is they basically turn those portals on the side and spin them so they become death scythes, and that eviscerates thousands of grunts, the dark fiends or dark friends at a time. And there were all these eye-popping and magical moments that, even with all that wonderful stuff going on, I mean, I do get very desensitized if the same thing happens over and over again, but they wrote in a way that kept those moments interesting, because not only were these battles going on, and not only were the macro battles going on, but there were individual moments and plot threads and beats along the way that just hit so well within the story and satisfied me and stunned me for how well it was written. Now, granted, it's the Wheel of Time, so it does take, I think, easily 2-3 million words to get there. I want to say each book is like 500, so 500 times 14. Sorry, 500,000 words. So I don't know the exact. I should look it up and figure out exactly, but we're talking millions and millions of words to get to that final point. But it was well worth the trip. And if you have a lot of time, I read those books while I was basically on vacation, sitting on the beach for most of it. It also took me a couple of years to read through them. But if you have the time to devote to it, and you get to books 5, 6, 7, partially 8, if you can get through those books, the end of the series is well worth it. If you don't, I won't hold it against you. I can fully understand why people don't continue with the series, but again, I would certainly recommend it and try it out. But those are my answers to the various prompts, and I hope you all have enjoyed the Half Human Heroes tag, or my answers to them. if you all like to go ahead and do it, feel free to be tagged in this, and certainly let me know that you're doing this tag because it's a lot of fun. I mean, I know I gave some of my basic answers for this, but a couple of them I really thought out of the box to remember the books I've read and some of the stories that I know. So I know I've been doing a lot more live episodes. These are easier to do. They're certainly a lot less overhead. I don't need to spend an extra 10 hours to edit and cut the video down. So again, I'm probably going to be doing another 2 weeks of live videos, but I do have some really great ones pre-recorded already and queued up that are good to go. I think next week I'll be doing, I don't know, I haven't decided on the order of this yet, but next week I'll be doing, it's either an introvert's guide to success on AuthorTube/YouTube. I'll come up with a better name for that later when I do it. Or I'll be doing a breakdown of the tools I use to write. And like I said, I'll be giving the advantages and disadvantages of me writing on my little laptop that is 2 floors up now. But I'll be talking about how I can write and how I can write efficiently and what you can do or different methods that you can go through to get those words down. I know it's a nano month. I'm not actually partaking in it, but a lot of other people are getting those words down. I know. I sure I can. Whatever. I can mention it here, but Richard Holiday, he gives me daily updates on how much he is getting done. And today he managed to get in 500 words, which is wonderful. So I keep cheering him on, and I'm glad that he's getting his progress again. So I know he took off a little bit of time. The summer, he took off a little bit of time after he finished a draft of his sequel to Price War. I think it's The Color of War. But either way, I'm losing myself here on a tangent. Yes, been an introvert. I know, shocking, shocking, shocking. But yes, I'm in fact an introvert. But anyways, it's getting late, so I want to let you all go, and I will see you all next week. I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Running to Write. See you next time. Until then, give this tag a try. Give this tag a try, and let me know how it goes. Take care, everyone.